folks. Welcome back to the official podcast of the Utah County Republican Party. I'm your host, Charles Max Wood. I'm also the party's vice chair, and I'm here with Richard Smith, running for County Commission Seat A.
Correct.
And just a few things to get out of the way real quick. I kind of do this at the beginning of each of the shows, and so I'll try and make it brief. But one, I'm a party officer, and since he's running in a convention that we're running, we have to be neutral. So I gave everybody out the same amount of time. I'm trying to ask all the same questions. We're going to try and release them all at the same time. I do have one commission candidate that can't do it until after I plan to release, but we have such a short time frame that that's just the way it's going to have to be. I may line up a couple of other interviews just because of all the other things I have going on. I'm going to ask these questions if you want to go into more depth. All the candidates have been really good. I'm assuming you will be too, at just, hey, call me or email me or whatever, to get answers or find them at the meet and greets. There's also going to be a debate on Saturday, which will be before this gets released, but hopefully we're going to record that and folks can go watch that too. That's what we're doing. I've had Bill Lee on some of these. He couldn't make it to this one. So, so I'll ask all the questions. I usually let him ask some of the questions because he has my list and says, pick one, dude. But anyway, that's the other thing is I feel like when I go to the meet and greets or the debates, sometimes it's hard to get a good read on where people are different, right? Because
sure,
you kind of get into some of the issues, and a lot of times some of those are kind of common sense, and so you get the same answer from everybody. And then the other thing is at the meet and greets, you're trying to answer as thoroughly and quickly as possible so you can answer the next question and help as many people understand who you are as possible.
Right.
And so I just, I'm a delegate and I want to know.
Sure.
One other thing that you should know is that I talked to some people who have worked in the commission office or worked at the county office, and they've helped me understand some of the things that the commissioner does. And so if I ask you a question and you're like, I don't know what that is, that's fine.
Okay.
Ultimately, what I look for, and I know some of the other delegates may be different, but what I'm looking for, I'm not looking for the most knowledgeable person. I'm looking for the person who's going to look at the issue and then operate on principle to decide what to do.
Sure.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so I want to know how you think about things. I want to know how, I value this, and so I'm going to do that.
Right.
And so I'm not going to try and make you look dumb by asking about stuff you don't know. I'll just explain it if you don't know, and then you can say, well, given all that information, this is what I think.
Okay. Sounds great. Thanks for having me.
So the first question, and this is kind of probably the only softball question you're going to get, but, who are you? What's your history? Have you held other office? Where do you work? That kind of a thing. And then along with that, the way that I put it, because I like to kind of know where people are at in their life, in their personal life. And so let's say that tonight I show up at your house, knock on the door. Hey, Richard, how's it going? You're like, come on in. Like, what am I going to see? Is it, moody teenagers? That's my house, by the way. Or is it, I'm going to be tripping over dogs and kids, or, pretty quiet because it's just me or just me and my wife or whatever. So, so what's your background? Why are you running? And what's your personal life look like?
Okay, yeah. So, I'm Richard. I'm originally from Utah. Mm-hmm. So I'm from Syracuse, Utah.
Okay.
When I grew up there, it was a small agricultural town. It's changed a lot
since
then.
Yeah.
And most people don't know where it is. So I always tell them, you know how to get to the lake and Antelope Island, you have to drive through it.
Right.
So, and then people kind of understand where it is.
Is that Salt Lake County or Davis County?
It's Davis.
Okay.
Yeah. And some people will be like, Syracuse, New York. I'm like, no, it's like an hour north of here.
Yeah.
So that's been kind of a fun thing. So I grew up there. Was originally born in Sandy, but we moved up there, and I spent most of my childhood there.
Okay.
And then I ended up deciding to go to school at Utah State up in Logan. That's where I met my wife. We had 2 kids there while I was going to school. And then we've just kind of progressively moved south throughout the state. So we lived in North Salt Lake for a bit, Salt Lake when I was going to the U for my master's degree as well. And now we're in Cedar Hills and Provo, and now we're in Spanish Fork, and we're looking at building a home down in Santaquin. So we're eventually going to move even further south. We'll
Oh,
be
wow.
right on the edge of the county line, probably. So
If you get elected commissioner and you move to Nephi, you can't do both.
I know at that point
Okay.
I'd have to say nope, I can't do it. But
Just letting you know.
but we're not that far yet. So I have 5 children. My oldest she's 12, and our youngest is 2.
Oh, you're
So
fun stage.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's been especially difficult because in the last 6 months, like our youngest got diagnosed with type 1 diabetes.
Oh, wow.
So it's added
That's
a
a
new
learning curve.
Yeah, it's not. I've counted calories before, but counting
Mm-hmm.
carbs is kind of a new deal.
Yeah.
So that's been kind of a learning curve for us. But yeah, that's generally like if you were to come knock on my door, you'd see kids' toys everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Kids probably digging holes in the lawn. That's what you'd see. Yeah.
I'm a little past that. I'm the one digging the holes in the lawn.
Oh,
But
yeah, background of school stuff though. Like I went to at Utah State. I got my bachelor's degree in environmental economics,
Mhm.
where we learned about applying economic ideals and correcting environmental issues. And then my master's degree is in public policy.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what's your background as far as like public service and stuff?
Yeah, so the only kind of public service I have is I work for the county assessor's office
Okay.
currently. I'm their general manager. So I oversee all the people who interact with our taxpayers on the regular in our office.
I gotcha. I mean,
Yeah.
I like having a high valuation, but I don't like having a high valuation, if you know what I mean.
Sure. Yeah, it's good and bad. It's bad when it gets times by the tax rate, right?
Right?
But it's been good. I've been there for 6 years and I enjoy working for them, and our elected assessor's great, and yeah, it's been very eye-opening because there's some taxes I didn't realize we actually had until I started working there. So that's been kind of
Right?
fun.
I'll bet.
Yeah.
So why county commissioner?
Yeah, I just have kind of seen how things have been going recently in the commission and how the interaction between them and some of the county departments had been, and it's been a little unsettling. And so I've always kind of liked the idea of potentially running. I used to joke, like when I was going to school for my master's degree, I told some people that I was going to be a politician. And then my wife confronted me afterwards and was like, "You told them what?" And it's like, well, I mean, I got tired of telling what a public policy analyst person does.
Right.
So I was like, yeah, I mean, some of them run for political office. So
Yeah.
it's just the irony that I was joking then and now I'm actually running. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because you see either potential problems or potential ways to do better. And yeah.
Yeah.
You know, so it's like, yeah, I could do some good there. So,
Yeah, exactly.
yep. All right. Well, I'm going to start asking the hard questions now. You ready?
Hey, go ahead. Yeah, see if we can answer them for you.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the first questions, I kind of have 4 or 5 questions that people. It was funny because at the last meet and greet after the delegate training, I had like 4 or 5 delegates come up and say, "So what do you think about this?" And I'm like, "I'm not even running."
Yeah. What are you asking me?
So these are some of the questions that they asked me, and and then I went and got numbers to back it up. So Utah County Commissioners have increased their annual salaries from $119,000 to $170,000 plus benefits over the last 5 years. Do you agree with the increases, and do you feel like their salary is too high, too low, or just right?
Yeah, that's kind of a hard question. Yeah. I mean, I've seen them vote for those increases, and I mean, we've all gotten some increases at the county because they do those studies regularly. The hard thing is I feel like in a position like that, we need to compensate them accordingly.
Yeah.
You know, like these people are potentially leaving their full-time jobs to take on this full-time responsibility. So there is some risk there. So I think we should compensate them. As for whether or not 170,000's too much, I don't really have an opinion on that necessarily, but
Okay.
it might be a little high. I don't know.
So is that something you're interested in looking into, or are you just kind of going to go with it, or?
I mean, I think it's worth looking into. Yeah, I think we should also make sure that the commissioners don't necessarily get paid less than the other elected officials as well. So I mean, we got to take all that into account, I think.
Yeah. So how do you evaluate whether it's the right number or not?
Well, I think you have to see kind of what some other places are doing. It's hard because I
Mhm.
think what Salt Lake's doing, they have a
They have
council mayor,
yeah.
which is a little bit different. But you could probably see some of the other rural counties, see what they're doing that have commissioners, and see what they. I haven't looked
Yeah.
at what they pay.
Yeah, I don't love that a ton because so just to give some
Yeah,
background, I'm a software developer, right? So they compensate me pretty well. Why? Because they don't want me to go work for somebody else, right?
sure.
But for the commissioners, if they want to go work for somebody else as a commissioner, they have to move to that county and convince those voters to vote them in.
Right.
And so I don't always love that. The other thing is the concerns in our county are some of them are the same, but some of them are not.
Right.
And so I don't like comparing with the other counties because I think they make their decisions based on other criteria,
Okay.
or at
Yeah.
least they should.
I think it's a good baseline at least. Maybe a place to start.
Okay.
Um, I think. I mean, if there's the hard thing is you don't really have any nonprofits that have similar roles
Right.
necessarily, so it's kind of
Yeah.
it makes it difficult for sure.
Yep. Absolutely. The next question is the commission approved a 67% property tax increase in 2019. And then they approved another 48% increase in 2024. So, how do you feel about those increases? And do you feel like our property taxes are too high, too low, or just right?
Didn't the one in the first one you mentioned, didn't that one not pass, or did it end up passing?
I'm pretty sure it passed. They might have dialed it back a little bit, I think, under public pressure.
Okay, yeah, I think
I-
I just gonna say I don't know.
I
if it
may
went for the full
misremember
amount,
that.
but
So if I said that wrong, that's on me.
you're good.
But I think I heard that.
I think that there's a lot of things that go into taxes.
Mm-hmm.
And for us to just blanket say like taxes increases are bad.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean we have to look into costs and those kinds
Right.
of things as well. I also think that we have had some mentality in the commission where they're like we're not going to increase at all no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
And I think in some ways that puts the burden on future commissions to make that ugly decision.
Yeah.
And I don't think that that's fair, but that's part of politics, right?
Mhm.
And so I think in some ways we just have to look at it in a very objective mindset and say, hey, like these are the costs we're seeing for these essential things.
Mhm.
Obviously, there's things that we probably
Right.
could get rid of
Mhm.
or cut, but there's a lot of the things that the county does that are state mandated, and we
Uh-huh.
kind of have to do them. Like
Right.
public defenders and those kinds
Yeah,
of things.
yeah.
The sheriff's office. I mean, sheriff's office is a huge portion of the budget.
Yeah, it is.
And so by us just saying, "Oh, well, we can't raise taxes," I mean, those costs go up too. So I think it should be we raise it only what we need,
Uh-huh.
and then we're not banking on this huge amount of money
Right.
now for later.
So kind of the same as the last question. How do you evaluate that?
Yeah. I think part of that is you just have to look at trends of costs in certain things.
Okay.
So like trends of costs of labor, right?
Mhm.
We realize that like let me give you a good example. So like in the assessor's office, we have a position that's been up for a while,
Mm-hmm.
and because they don't offer enough money for that type of credentialed employee, we haven't been able to fill it at all.
Okay.
So I think in some cases we have to say, hey, well, yeah, we need a commercial appraiser of this caliber,
Uh-huh.
and we have to account for that somewhere. And so it's kind of hard to
Mhm.
say specifically, but I think we should evaluate those things that are essential. Say, hey, we're lacking in this, and we're lacking here as well, and some of those costs we're just gonna have to pick up.
Yeah.
And I know that's hard for people to hear
Mm-hmm.
because it does cost more on you
Right.
and on me and all these other people too.
Yeah. So I have been asking for a commitment from the commission candidates. Would you commit to either not raising taxes during your 4-year term, or only raising property taxes? How did I have it? At the inflationary rate, with the base year being 2026.
I more agree with that last one than
Are-
not
are-
raising at all.
Are
Yeah,
are you willing to commit to that?
sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
I
I mean, I'd like to obviously see all the other things involved, but
right. All right. The next question is the commissioners. So a few years ago, the commission staff was 3 commissioners and 3 senior policy advisors. And that was the entire commission staff, right? Now it sounds like I've heard numbers anywhere from like 17 all the way up to like 24, 25 people in the commission office doing various things. They hired a county administrator, an assistant county administrator, and a bunch of these other people to do things within the commission office. I've heard ballpark numbers for the salaries all the way up to like $500,000 for that office. So I'm curious, do you feel like the commission office is about the right size, or that they've grown too fast, or that there aren't enough people there? And how do you evaluate that and manage that?
Well, yeah, I think some of that is probably a workload thing. I know that some of those people, like one of the people in general that I know specifically is under the commission, is like she like deals with the general information desk, and instead of being under a different department, they put them under the commission. So, and I know they're not a huge salary change necessarily. Yeah, I think it seems like with the way that they're staffing it, they kind of want to go the council mayor type of thing without actually doing it, is kind of what it seems like. I don't know the specifics on that specifically, but
okay. Well, so how do you evaluate that? Like, you're getting in as a commissioner, you look at the staff. How do you decide if that's the right configuration or number of people?
Yeah, I think the first thing is you probably just have to see what they do day to day. Like evaluate their workload. Like, are they spending most of their day just responding to emails, or are they like helping facilitate these other larger things that the commission actually needs help with? And I think that's kind of where you start, is just kind of like what's that show? There's a show where they just come in and they start asking all these people, like, what do you do here? What do you do here? And the guy's like, well, I just kind of give the papers to this person. And that person gives it to them, who gives it to so-and-so. And I think you have to, I know that's kind of a joking situation, but I think we kind of almost have to do that. And you almost have to evaluate whether or not what they're doing is important enough to keep a position for it.
Yeah. Another follow-on that I've heard a few people ask is, if the commission staff, you determine, hey, we don't need all these people, are you willing to let people go?
I mean, I've had to do hard things like that with my current role. I think if that is the case, I mean, for taxpayers, we should do those kinds of things. But I think we should, before we just make rash decisions, we should go in and really evaluate it before we do that.
Okay. And then the other big one is the commission structure, right? So you mentioned mayor council. I've heard a few people propose that. I think most of the people I've heard propose that want to be the mayor.
Oh, really?
The county mayor. That said, I think there are trade-offs to all of these, and some of the trade-offs may come in one way or the other as to how good they are. The other one that I've heard is going from 3 commissioners to 5 commissioners. And then with that, we should have 5 full-time commissioners or 5 part-time commissioners. And we should have 5 commission districts, or maybe 3 commission districts into a large, or I've heard other configurations. So what do you think we should do?
My opinion of that, I actually kind of like the 3 commission setup. I think 5 kind of goes against kind of the party ideals of keeping government small. So 5, I think if you went 5, you should change probably the structure in like a mayor council kind of thing, because then you get kind of a similar group of people, and then you get like you have this district, you have this district, there's a few people at large. But I like the 3 the best.
Okay. I mean, we have seen some problems with the 3, right? If we have a commissioner that can't come to the meetings, either for health reasons or because they're not really doing their job. We've seen both. If the other 2 can't agree, then whatever measure they're looking at just doesn't pass.
Right. And you're right. And that is a downfall of 3.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, again, it's about trade-offs, right? Is that a better trade-off than the 5? I don't know.
Yeah. I think I'd still, in that case, I think three's fine.
Okay.
But I can see how you could argue the other, but
Yeah, makes sense. So, diving into some of the other stuff, the commission is, or not the commission, but the county is a member of a number of associations, right?
right.
And they all do kind of different things, but some of them are kind of expensive to be a part of, right? I heard about one that's $100,000 plus to be a member of.
Oh,
And so, how do you evaluate whether or not that's a good use of taxpayer money?
can you tell me about that one specifically? Do you know what group that is?
I think it's Utah Association of Counties.
Oh, yeah, that's Utah Association of Counties is pretty big though. Yeah. I don't know. That's like a value add stuff, right? It's like, well, is the thing like if we have enough influence in at the county level to like help motivate what we need on our end, I think then it's probably worth it. But if we're just kind of one little voice, I mean, we're a huge county, we're growing super
Right.
fast. So if we don't have a good say in what's happening, I think that that's kind of a negative, right? Because then we're paying money into something that all these other counties are really kind of
Right.
having more say than us. So I think we have to kind of look at it that way and say, maybe you are in part of them for a while, and then say, hey, you know what? They're not taking what we want to see in our county relevant. They're not saying it's not relevant or something like that, and we pull out of those things. But I think that's kind of as a come as you like as you see it and move along as you go, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Makes sense. One other thing, and this comes out of the the 3-person commission, right? We've had some commissioners that seem to want to run their business and be a commissioner, but it's a full-time job.
It totally is, and I think that's one thing. I mean, you hate to say that we should require them to, but I mean, we really should. I mean, the taxpayers are paying for them. We should require them to at least put in a certain amount of time.
Okay.
That's what we do with other people that work for the county or
Right.
other businesses. I mean, your business that you work for, if you're only putting in 5 hours a week, they're not going to keep you on.
No, not unless I'm getting a whole lot done in those 5 hours.
Right. So I think that there should be some, and I don't know how you do that in a legislative way or anything, but I think that there should be some kind of requirement of you have to
Right.
put in so much time.
Yeah. My question is more along the lines of, do you have any outside business interests or other things going on that are going to take your time away from
No. Yeah.
county?
Actually, I'd have to quit my full-time job to do it.
Yeah, I think you would.
That
might be a conflict of interest.
Yeah. I couldn't do both of those things. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Another thing that the county commission does is they approve the budget.
It's a big part of their job, right?
Yeah. And it's a decent chunk of change, right?
Yeah, it's a lot of money.
Yeah. So, a couple of things with that. First of all, do you have a budgeting method that you like? I have a list of them right here. Some of them. There's line item budgeting, performance budgeting, program budgeting, zero-based budgeting, priority budgeting.
Yeah, I'm not. I don't know a lot of those things. So, can you kind of explain a little bit about them?
I don't know a lot about a lot of them.
Okay.
Light item budgeting is usually we're going to spend this much on this thing, right? And that's kind of the traditional way that you think about a budget. Zero-based budgeting is you start at zero and you add on all the things that you're going to spend
Okay.
until you kind of run out of budget.
Okay.
The performance budgeting, I think, usually comes down to, if you meet these parameters, then we'll give you more, and if you meet these other parameters, we'll give you more. The program budgeting is kind of similar to line item budgeting. It's just a little higher level.
Okay.
And then priority based budgeting is basically we're gonna pay for the important stuff first, and then the less important stuff later.
Okay. Yeah, and they probably do more of a line item thing currently, right? Do you know?
I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I don't really have much of a.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not really sure what to say on that specifically, to be honest.
Okay. Related to that though, the other thing that we've been asking is, would you be open to having your personal credit? Yeah, I can't talk. Having your personal credit score shared, so that people know how you manage your money.
I mean, I feel like that's kind of invasive. I mean, I'm not necessarily against it, but I don't know if I want to give it out to people necessarily. I
Yeah.
could tell you it's good,
Uh-huh.
but I know people won't want to see it.
Right.
But
So is that a yes or a no?
I don't think that's appropriate, really.
Okay.
I mean, yeah, I can understand you want to see my personal stuff, but there's so many things in the county stuff that's like certain funds can only be used for certain things,
Mm-hmm.
and so I I think that that's maybe kind of an invasion of privacy to give out my stuff personally, but
Okay. Have you ever filed for personal or business bankruptcy?
no.
That one was easy. Um, all right, so let's dive into some of the other tax. You know, I always go to taxes next. Let's switch it up a little bit. Um, let's talk about the mask mandate. So 2020, a lot of pressure coming from the governor's office. Two of the commissioners voted to enact a mask mandate in Utah County. So we had a mask mandate here. How do you feel about that? How do you make those kinds of decisions?
Yeah, that's such a hard. I mean, we all lived through that. The
Right, but
hard thing.
it's commission action, right?
Sure, it totally is.
So if you have that job and you're faced with something like that, what do you do?
How would I do it? Yeah, I think we should be able to. I think we should do whatever keeps the most. How do I say this? I feel like we should let our taxpayers do what's best and what they feel best for themselves. So I hate to say you have to. I don't think I would ever do that personally.
Okay.
I know that there was a lot of fear involved at that time.
Yeah.
But then when you saw that like people my age weren't really getting sick or dying from it, I mean it's kind of hard to. There's some responsibility that we should require ourselves to have, and I think if you're worried about those things, like those people should take those precautions themselves, but not necessarily the government step in on it.
Right. Well, and I look at it and I think, okay, well, there's a certain level of like public safety or
Sure.
public good, and then on the other side there's personal freedom, right? And so, yeah, how do you balance that?
Yeah, I mean, I tend to lean more heavily on freedom rather than the public health part. I mean, there are some public health things. I don't know. It starts to touch on a lot of the stuff that there's a lot of people talk about, like just vaccines in general, and that's kind of a real touchy subject.
Yeah,
And
the government didn't mandate vaccines. They were talking about like vaccine passports and stuff at the state level, but that's
Sure.
not where we're at here with the commission.
Right. Yeah.
But you know, at the same time, I don't know if it was the health department or somebody else, like they forced some businesses to close because they couldn't meet whatever
Certain
standard they had.
guidelines.
That, you know, but Home Depot and, you know, whoever else were open, Walmart, but you know, the little boutique shops couldn't stay open. That didn't, you know,
really hurts the small business.
right. And then you've got the restaurants, and they were forced to seat people further apart, so they couldn't serve as many people. And restaurants, a low margin business, so that's rough.
Right.
They told us that we couldn't go to church. So, you know,
Right.
are any of those decisions you would make? Or
I feel like it'd be very hard to say yes, you shouldn't be able to do anything. I would rather err on the side of we're not doing a mandate personally.
So what if people go out and get other people sick and they die?
Yeah, that's a risk we take. I mean, we take a risk, to be honest, getting
Right.
in the car. So
Yeah.
and actually car deaths were probably more than COVID, to be honest.
I don't know that, but my
I mean,
inclination is to say you're probably right.
We have a lot of people who get in the car
Yeah.
thinking they're just going to make it to work and
Yeah.
never do. So
Yeah, I didn't like any of the mandates, but I feel like if I can push and I can see right where you come down, that helps me make the decision on who I want to vote for the
Sure.
commissioner. So
I think that there is some validity to like hey, maybe in an early stage we have a little more precaution, and then as we see more, we
but
kind
do
of
you
step away from it. But I still would like to more on the
Mhm.
err on the side of
So you'd rather message it than mandate it.
Right.
Got it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You put that very well.
It sounded like that was where you were going. Yeah. If I'm putting words in your mouth, you can tell me I'm wrong.
No, that was. I think you said that well.
Yeah.
Thank you
All
for
right.
helping me put the words together.
Yeah. So another one. This is another decision that the commission made. There were a whole bunch of people in that room just yelling at them. And I will also preface this by saying that one of the other things that drives me crazy at the meet and greets is I'll go to stand there to ask a question or to see what they're talking about, and somebody will ask, how do you feel about, some federal issue, right? And it's like, well, the commissioner can do absolutely nothing about that.
Right.
And so, I don't feel that that's necessarily a good barometer, but this was something that they did. The county commission agreed to a cooperation agreement with ICE.
With ICE, yeah, this was a recent thing, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And so my question is that something that you would have agreed to? And how do you feel about immigration in general?
Yeah, I think I would have agreed to that as well. I'm one that just like we have laws for a reason, and if we don't like the laws, we should change the laws. And if we do have the laws, we should enforce them, right? And so that's kind of where I sit on it, is it's like us collaborating with them is to try and help enforce those laws, because good rule of law like protects us all.
Right.
Obviously there's some laws that are probably
Yeah.
right. I don't want to do a blanket statement of all
Right.
laws are great by any means, but I think when it comes to immigration, I think that there is something about we should put our citizens who pay taxes and who contribute to society here, we should prioritize them personally. So in some ways that's kind of a roundabout way in answering your question.
Yeah.
You're right.
Yeah. I think I heard a public figure say something like that in one of his speeches recently.
Oh,
So.
gotcha.
If you watch the State of the Union. Anyway, so let's talk about RDAs and TIFs. So RDAs are redevelopment agencies. They're usually set up to facilitate growth in a particular area.
Right.
TIFs, so RDAs are more of an organization, and they have special things that they do, and they're managed by different groups. The TIFs are more of an agreement between like a taxing entity and a business.
Right.
And so the TIF is you'll pay lower taxes. Sometimes it graduates up, sometimes it's up to a certain amount or up to a certain date. And so, if you come and you do business here or build houses here or, whatever it is that we want you to do here, then your taxes will be lower for a certain
part of time.
So, how do you feel about them? When do you think they're appropriate to use? When are they absolute no's? That kind of thing.
Sure. Yeah, I think whenever I hear tax increment financing and things like that, it kind of gives me a little, I don't know how to say it without saying like the current word of ick. It's like,
Right.
Oh yeah, I have a hard time seeing tax money go to benefit businesses specifically. I think a good businessman.
Some people would argue that that's not tax money going to benefit them. You're just not collecting it.
Yeah, that's just a type of terms used, right?
Okay.
It's really taxes we would have collected that they're not
Right.
giving us. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I also think that like government, like we should have, if we have businesses that are getting big breaks, I mean, it comes back down to those other mandates and stuff. The little businesses get hurt.
Yeah.
I mean, the big businesses like Meta's thing out in Eagle Mountain, I mean, they're getting a huge thing compared to others. And why do we benefit the big business more than the small business? I think that's the part that kind of gets at me, because I'm like, if I am a good businessman, I should be able to make it work without taking money from the system.
Okay. So it sounds like you're generally a no. Is there ever a time you're a yes?
I mean, maybe if it had a really large impact on like job growth in an area, maybe. I I think that'd be really hard to say. I mean, everyone says, "Oh, we're gonna bring jobs, we're gonna bring jobs," and then
Mm-hmm.
like you find out there's 5 jobs that are
Right.
there. Yeah, I I think I would generally err on the side of no, but I think if there was a very convincing thing or something that our county could really use, then maybe I would give it some thought. But I
Okay.
don't know if I'd necessarily say yes.
Okay. Um, we're getting through these questions a little faster than I'm used to. Let's
I'm
see.
not the one with the most eloquent words,
Yeah.
so
You're not as talkative as some of
I'm
the other
I'm very
candidates
much
either.
one with like a very
Yeah.
I give you my answer pretty quickly, but
Yeah. So let's talk about sales taxes here for a minute. All right. So the county sets a sales tax rate. Of course, then your city also sets a sales tax rate. So wherever you're buying stuff, right? So I live in Lehigh, but I live very close to Saratoga Springs. So, I can go to Walmart in Saratoga Springs, or I can go to Walmart in American Fork,
right,
or I can go to like Macy's or something here in Lehigh.
sure,
And my sales tax rate will change based on what the city's doing, right? On top of that, there are a couple of other taxes. One of them, and this is not at the grocery store, you generally see it at like restaurants. There's also it's the TRCC tax, or the Tourism, Recreation, Cultural Arts, and Convention Center tax. And then there's like the TRT tax that's on hotels,
right,
and they're all kind of in the same basket, right? So the money generally goes to benefit tourism and things like that, recreation, right? So some of that money, I'm aware, goes to the different cities for parks.
sure,
TRCC also is used to pay for some of the stuff at the convention center. But yeah, so it's a 1% tax on top of your
the already sales tax.
of the already sales tax when you go to a restaurant, or if you buy food at the gas station, or it's usually prepared food at wherever.
Sure.
So you get this bucket of money. How do you decide what to do with it, knowing that it's earmarked for tourism and recreation and stuff?
Yeah. How do you decide? I think that's one thing where we have some things in the county that are like people love going up to, like Bridalveil Falls is a good example. And I think that there's places like that we should spend that money in, like protecting and saving. I think at that point we kind of see where we can get the best bang for our buck, probably.
Okay.
Obviously, like the convention center is kind of a thing you kind of have to kind of fund a little bit. But yeah, I think that's kind of where I'd go with it. Is just whatever you get the most out of.
Okay. Just in terms of tourism, or just in general?
I mean, probably just in general. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, the tourism is part of our economy, right? We don't want to like discourage that. But I think an overall benefit, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
So one deal that they did with the TRCC money is they earmarked a bunch of it for the airport, Provo. And so the initial, what they gave the Provo City for the airport was $19.5 million. And then they did an interlocal agreement with Provo City to commit another $3.5 million per year for the next 15 years. Is that, how do you feel about that deal?
Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so initially the airport was built with 4 terminals. I think Provo City, don't quote me on this, but I'm pretty sure that Provo City fronted most or all of that. But they put infrastructure in the ground for up to 10 terminals. And so that money is specifically to build out the other 6 terminals. And yeah, that's about as much as I know about it.
Okay. Yeah, I think in some of those things, I mean, with the airport, I think that's a big thing for tourism, especially if we're going to have the Olympics coming back to Utah as well. So I don't think that's bad. I think that's probably a good idea.
Yeah.
Kind of helping that airport become a more of a central hub in our county, right? We don't really have anything besides the Spanish Fork Airport that's kind of small, and the one out in Cedar Valley. But so I think in some ways that's been actually probably will be really good for us in the long run. And that's kind of what the county commissioners do anyways, right? They're looking for a long-term
Yeah.
kind of progress. So I think that's probably a good idea.
Yeah. I think the part of it that makes me uncomfortable is the 15-year commitment.
Oh, yeah. I could see that
Yeah.
being a problem, but I think that's like with a lot of tax increment stuff in general. Like I know this isn't a tax increment thing,
Right.
but like that's been a lot of the concerns with even PIDs and things like that are like, oh, it's 30 years, it's 40 years or whatever
Yeah.
it is to. That's quite a commitment. I mean, we're going to have 2 or 3 sets of commissioners in that
Yeah.
time or more, right?
I didn't even ask about PIDs. I don't have it on my list, but that's a whole different animal.
It is, and that one's kind of it's hard when you let a non-taxing entity kind of collect taxes. Yeah.
Yeah, there's that. The other thing though is that with the PIDs or PIDs, I think a lot of that has more on the city than the county really.
Currently, yeah. I know there's a lot out in Eagle Mountain. I think there's
Yeah.
like 6 or 7 PIDs out there.
Yeah. So I'm starting another show. It's Utah Real Talk. Amazingly, UtahRealTalk.com was available.
Oh, really?
So I got it. But yeah, we're gonna explore some of that stuff, right? And it's like, okay, what does this actually mean?
Right.
But yeah, in general, it was just that. It's like, hey, you committed, $3.5 million every year for the next 15 years. So, you haven't even collected that money yet. And my other concern is what if some more urgent need that money should be earmarked for comes up? It's committed.
That's
So,
true. Yeah.
but,
I think, yeah, you're probably right. I mean, some of those long-term
yeah,
commitments are hard,
yeah,
but some of them are probably necessary. I mean,
Yeah.
the airport's probably a good example of maybe a long-term necessary one.
yeah. It may be the right
Right.
call. I'm just saying that.
But I get what you're saying about
that's my question.
in other sections,
Yeah.
then maybe we shouldn't commit to like 15 years. It should be more like 2 or 3 and
Yeah.
and reevaluate.
Right. Or add benchmarks to it. You get this much, and then if we're seeing this kind of uptick in tourism,
Then you'll get more.
You get more.
Right.
The other one on sales tax is the quarter-cent tax. So the quarter-cent tax is earmarked for transportation and transit. So they can spend it on roads, they can spend it on public transportation, things like that. And what it is they can add up to 4 quarter-cent tax, right? So it's a 0.25% tax on top of your sales tax again, right? So this is in addition to whatever the base sales tax is. And they can do that up to 4 times, and then they can add a fifth, which they call the fifth of the fifth or something. They think everybody who says it to me says it like they think it's a clever name, and I just don't understand. But anyway, the point is so like the first quarter-cent goes to UTA.
Okay.
And then the second quarter-cent, this is where I get fuzzy, like the second, third, and fourth, like some of it goes to the city, some of it goes to the county, some of it goes to like Front Runner, other stuff, right? And so the commission can elect to add any of those quarter-cents and then the fifth if they want. And so what's your take on that, and how would you spend that money?
Yeah. See, I hate to add more taxes to your already like. I mean, you're paying tax on the gas and all these other things,
Right.
that are also earmarked for other transportation things. The hard thing is some of those probably don't come back to a local level in a lot of ways.
I don't know.
Yeah, I imagine a lot of that goes to UDOT or something instead. And
Yeah. But UDOT takes care of the freeway and stuff,
Right.
so
yeah, there's some benefit here, right?
Yeah.
I'm not saying there's not.
well, and the cities use their chunk of it to,
Do
fix
the
roads and
local
stuff too.
roads.
So I don't know. I think, yeah, anyway.
Yeah, as
But
for
you get a chunk at the county, what are you going to do with it?
yeah, I think that is where we have to start using kind of some like long-term planning type of stuff. Because, I mean, there's areas throughout the county that, I mean, we all know kind of struggle, like here in Lehigh from the freeway out to here. I mean, the drive here was kind of rough.
Did you come up Pioneer Crossing?
Yeah.
Yeah, we were doing all the kind
I was like, oh no.
Yeah.
And even when that road was working, it was busy.
Yeah,
you know?
they definitely underbuilt it, but
And then, like, I mean, down where I live, you have Highway 6, which is more of
Uh-huh.
a UDOT type of thing, anyways. But
yeah. That's how I get out to my father-in-law's house, because
Oh,
he lives
really?
on the other side of the canyon.
Yeah. So that in that way, like I think that is a long term thing that we probably need to help out on
Uh-huh.
because Spanish Fork's still growing,
Right.
like, and some of those other areas, especially the south side of the county.
Mm-hmm.
Like we have a ton of homes going down in Santaquin and the Benjamin, Salem area, and I think that our biggest place we could use that money is preparing those roads for when they become a more traveled thoroughfare.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it sounds like you kind of want to be a little more proactive for where the growth could occur and where you have room to build those roads out to what they need.
I think that would be ideal,
Okay.
right? I think we all benefit, I think, from that.
Mm-hmm.
I know some people will be like, "Oh, well, you should spend the money here, spend the money there," but
Yeah,
I think
spend it up here.
I mean everyone would want to
Or
spend.
Lehigh.
I mean Lehigh probably needs the most help, especially because they do have a lot of growth happening compared to other parts of the county. But I think we also have to.
No, that's
it's
fair.
all going south eventually, right?
Yeah.
The next thing you know, it'll be Nephi, and another county is the big.
Could be.
Right. And so
I
if
mean,
we're kind of preparing, I know we're not necessarily preparing for the other counties, but we should be forward thinking, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
Makes sense to me.
Does
So
some of that money actually go to like heavy rail and stuff too? Because you said some of it was earmarked for UTA.
yeah, so the first quarter cent I know goes to UTA. And I read somewhere that it was like the part of like half of the third or fourth quarter cent goes to Front Runner.
Oh, okay. But it's not like the first thing, it's the
No.
other. Yeah.
And I believe all of those proportions are set by the state. They're in state code.
Okay.
So it's not like the county can say, we're going to adopt the second quarter and we're going to divvy it up this way. I don't think
Right.
it works
It's
that way.
it's just the first quarter goes there.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So,
Thanks for the information.
yeah. I mean, again, I did some research. So, I could have read something incorrect.
Yeah, that's
So-
okay.
So
That's,
check me on that.
you know a lot on that more than I do probably.
So you mentioned South County. We also see it a whole bunch like here on the west side of the lake, but agriculture and agricultural protection. So there are different programs that allow people to, operate their farms. Maybe they get a break on their property tax.
Sure.
Or,
You're talking about the Greenbelt.
or
stuff.
Greenbelt. Yeah.
Very, very aware of that.
So, oh yeah, you're in the assessor's office.
Yep.
All right. So,
And I oversee the people who implement it.
so what are your feelings about it? Necessary, unnecessary? How we do it is right, wrong?
I think that it's a good thing
Uh-huh.
because we need food.
Yeah.
And there's some of maybe the agricultural stuff that actually doesn't go into like the food market you eat or
Uh-huh.
I eat. But I think without food, we kind of shoot ourselves in the foot
It's
a little
kind of
bit.
important, yeah.
Yeah. I think the bigger thing in that is we just need to make sure that the people who are on those programs are actually qualifying for them.
Uh-huh.
I know that's something we've been dealing with in the assessor's office is
Okay.
trying to make sure those people are actually compliant with the law.
Right.
But I think that's the biggest thing we need to kind of focus
Mm-hmm.
on is making sure that if they're getting a tax break, that they're actually deserving of the tax break.
Mhm.
Otherwise, you and I pay more in taxes
Right.
because they got a break they shouldn't have.
Yeah.
And I think I've seen some stuff at the county level where I think it's been good that they recently have chose to have a administrative law judge hear those hearings. I don't know if you knew about that.
Uh-uh.
Yeah, so they have an ex state tax commissioner who's hearing those hearings
Okay.
and giving a recommendation to the county
Okay.
in the BOE. Yeah, so
BOE.
yeah, the Board of Equalization.
Okay.
So the three commissioners sit on that board.
Yes.
Right, as well as the commission.
As soon as you said it, I knew what it was, but I don't know if our
Oh,
audience knows.
No, you're
So-
good. Yeah. So I think that is kind of where, if we're worried about that, we should focus on the compliance part of it, and we should enable the assessor's office to be able to do that.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I also agree it's important to, if they have a family farm and they want to keep farming it.
Yeah. I mean, that comes back to the whole property rights thing.
Yeah.
If it's my property, I should have the same right to do with it as you have to do
Right.
with yours. And so, the hard thing is like, are we committed to pretty much subsidizing some of that, right?
Yeah, but it's kind of a two-edged thing, right? Because on the one end, if we're not collecting the property tax on it or as much property tax on it, then then we've got to make that up in the budget somewhere.
Right.
But the flip side is that I also feel like whatever the government does shouldn't infringe on people's ability to do what they want. And so if the property tax burden on a farm, because they're, the city's kind of grown up around them and stuff, so the property value's gone way up.
Sure.
It shouldn't make it impossible for them to afford to farm on it either.
Agreed.
And so, yeah, you've got to figure something out.
Right. And I do think that we have like those ag protection stuff. I think
Yeah.
that that's great. And I think it's great that we like, especially the big farms that are getting
Mhm.
bought up. I mean, you have to have, I think it's 40 acres or
Yeah,
I
something
think
like
they
that.
maybe have changed it where it's a little lower now.
I've
Or you
heard
can-
different things. I'm not gonna
Yeah, not getting the details with that necessarily, but I think that
I'm not
that's
gonna
great.
pretend to know.
Yeah, I think it's great that we kind of get involved in that and
Yeah.
try and help protect that. It
Yeah.
is kind of, I mean, and to be honest, the people who live in those areas are typically the ones that they're not within the city boundaries. So
Mhm.
like the planning codes and all those things affect those people as well,
Yeah.
and that the county administers. So I think it'd be good that we help show the people that have a big influence on who we have a big influence on their property, to help support them as well.
Yep.
Yeah.
What about water?
Yeah, that's a big subject. And I don't know if a county commissioner can fix that by themselves,
Okay.
right? But we have a big shortfall of water, especially going to be this year, right?
Mhm.
I think we can lead out in some ways and say,
Mhm.
hey, well, in county run things, maybe we can cut water kind of like they're doing in Salt Lake.
Mhm.
We don't necessarily need green grass to be able to function, but we do need water for the people living here.
Right.
So, but also at the same time, I mean, we have freedom, and if people are wanting to pay extra money to utilize more water, I think, why should we stop them at the same time? I don't know.
Okay. Yeah, a lot of the water's managed by the cities, but there are, the county does administer a lot of land around the county or around the cities. And so, yeah, a lot of times it's joint effort.
Yeah, and
But you're definitely not the only player in that sandbox.
right, and it does get kind of sticky with water rights for
Uh-huh.
farmers as well, because I mean, it comes back to the food thing. If they don't have water to
Yeah.
produce crops, I mean, we're kind of in a sticky situation too.
Yeah. Well, and if they have those water rights and they can do whatever they want with them, they have a party.
Yeah,
with them,
especially
you know, whatever.
yeah, especially if their right has more strength than others, right?
Yeah. So, yeah. Let's see. I think we've gone through a lot of these. So on transportation, in 2014, they approved what is now the Utah Valley Express line, or bus,
The
bus
BRT.
BRT, bus rapid transit.
Mhm.
Up University Parkway between the two universities. And some people think it's a success, other people think it's a failure. I don't know where you come down on that.
I don't know if I'd say it's an overwhelming success.
Uh-huh.
I think the thing with transportation that becomes really hard is everyone wants to drive a car.
Uh-huh.
I want to be on my time, my schedule. But some people don't.
Mhm.
And we need to be able to help them in society, I think, in some ways.
Okay.
I don't know, that could be an argument on whether or not people should help. But I'm generally a type of person that's like, I help my neighbor if I can. So if we can help some people who may not be able to afford a car get from one place to another, I mean, where's the harm in that?
Okay. So how do you measure the success or failure of the BRT or the Utah Valley Express?
I think the only thing you can do is ridership is probably the
Okay.
best measure. I mean, and ridership's probably
Uh-huh.
waxes and wanes throughout the day.
I mean, they promised what I've
But
heard
they
is
promise, yeah, let's hear it.
they promised a lot more ridership than it's gotten. But,
Really?
Yeah, and the county kicked in a bunch of money. And the reason I remember any of this is because I was elected as a delegate the cycle right after it.
Mhm.
And so people were talking about it, and so a lot of folks had opinions as to whether or not the county should have helped pay for
Put
it.
money in it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we we have so many things going on that, like, if we can try and alleviate some stuff off of some of the main roads, I mean, people probably complain less. I mean, as for how many, I mean,
Yeah.
I think you'd have to get in the details of how many riders, how much you
Yeah.
spend, and the cost for it.
I'd
See-
really like to see those numbers because
Same.
I've driven down the road next to pretty empty buses.
Sure, and I'm same. Like, they have that bus route that goes from Provo all the way down to Payson, I think. And I at nighttime there's like 2 or 3 people on it.
Right.
But I've also been that 2 or 3 people once before, and I've been glad that the bus has been there.
Yeah.
So, I mean, yeah, I think that's where it becomes kind of hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it goes back again to this same thing, right? So, maybe it came out of the quarter-cent tax or something like that, where the county had that money, and so they put it in there, right? Is that the best use of that money? So,
Yeah, it's probably a good use of money, but
Okay.
best, who knows? I think we'd have to evaluate all the other projects they've done that I
mhm.
haven't looked into
Right.
to see.
All right. Well, I have 2 questions I always save for last, so I'm going to ask those now.
Okay.
And then if there's anything else you want to talk about, we can talk about that.
Sure.
The first one is if you're elected commissioner, who's your boss and how do they hold you accountable?
Yeah, the boss is the people
Okay.
who elected you.
Uh-huh.
And I think the best way that they can hold you accountable is voting you out.
Okay.
But I think
that
should.
takes 4 years sometimes.
I know. But I also think that we should. One of the big things that I've kind of been. My big push has been kind of being there to hear the people. I think that's one thing the commission could probably benefit from is maybe having some more town hall type of things where people can come and talk. I don't think I've really seen any of those yet, personally.
Yeah.
They have had some where like they're talking about raising taxes on the county, and they had people come out, and
They have to do that by law. The
that's
truth
true.
and taxation.
That part
meeting.
is. But they had one that was when they were talking about it.
Oh, okay.
They had like an open house thing. The hard thing is they did it at night. I even participated in it for the assessor's office. We had like 12 people show up.
Right.
So I think that's kind of. I want to have that option so people can be there. But I mean, it comes to the people and whether or not they're going to show up and hear their voice.
Yeah.
Because that's been one of the big things I've heard some of the delegates ask is, are you willing to change the time of the commission meeting? I'm totally game. We can change it.
Right.
But how many of them are going to show up?
That's a good question.
Right. And I wanted to ask one of them that. I was like, well, if we moved it to 7, would you show up? And who we'd have to wait and see.
Yeah.
But I think that's really like, yeah, we're accountable to the taxpayers. And so we should listen to them.
Yeah. So the other question is kind of similar. So running for county commissioner, it's a partisan office. And so you're running as a Republican, right?
Yeah.
So this is me putting my vice chair hat back on. So you put on our jersey, you play in our colors. How does the party hold you accountable, or how are you accountable to the party?
Yeah, I've never thought of that before until right now. I mean, I see it in the federal part where you have people kind of pretend to be one party and tend to vote differently.
I think the federal part screwed up. How are you going to do it?
I think that's where we have to kind of, we have the central committee and those people who are like, some of them are elected, some of them are other precinct chairs and stuff like that. And I think that's where we have to sit and listen to them as well on a kind of a different realm than our typical taxpayer or delegate type of thing. And I think the only way they can hold us accountable is like if they say, hey, we saw you did this, like, and that's not meeting our policy goals, then they can ask him to resign. I mean, we have seen that with one of the current commissioners.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We didn't ask her to resign, but
people
she
did.
was censured.
Other people did.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't mean to talk any shade on her.
No, it's fine. But I'm just clearly stating the party's position. So yeah. Was there anything else you wanted to cover?
I don't think so. I mean,
all right.
This is very informative, so I appreciate you letting me join you and
yeah,
having
absolutely.
this.
So one last thing, I'm assuming your campaign has a website, phone number, email, other ways you want people to reach out to you. How do people find you?
Yeah, you can find me at smithforutahcounty.com
Uh-huh.
or smithforutahcounty@gmail. You can send me an email, or you can call my personal cell at 801-589-8371.
All right, sounds good.
Okay.
Yeah, I was joking before the interview too. My mom's a Smith, and so we're pretend cousins.
Yeah. I've had a lot of people ask me if I'm related to the other Smith, the big prominent Smith.
Right.
And no, like I'm actually closer to that family through my mom's side than the
Yeah,
actual
yeah.
Smith side.
It's funny how that works. But
Yeah.
anyway, thanks for
Yeah.
coming.
Thanks for having me.
All right.
Appreciate it.